Nvidia is reporting earnings this Wednesday, and you're curious what investors should know. Well, don't worry, I got you covered. This is the best place you're going to get any Nvidia, semiconductor, or AI updates. And on today's episode, we're going to look at everything and more that you should know as an Nvidia stock investor. I'm even going to do one better. I'm going to share my overall projections of the price after earnings on this video. So let's take a closer look in today's episode.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
It is that time of the quarter when earnings are coming out for the biggest semiconductor and the biggest AI company, the biggest company, public company in the world right now, Nvidia. You know what that means? That means everybody's favorite YouTuber is out there doing an Nvidia earnings video. And go to them, but most people, I'm just going to be honest, most people are just going to share a few things. What you need to know in earnings per share, what you need to know about revenue, what you need to know about guidance. And I want to say for a company as crazy as Nvidia, that's not even half the battle. You need to know exactly what type of questions you should be asking during this earnings. And that's what this episode is going to be. Kind of the everything you need to know and everything everybody else is talking, plus more important information for Nvidia investors. We can see the stock right now is sitting at about $178 over the weekend, and earnings are expected to be August 27th after the market closes. So I have this pretty cool slideshow. And this, if there is one slideshow that you need to know that probably no one else is showing, is this capital expenditure. And this is on a quarterly basis and taking a closer look at the big players, your Microsoft, your Google, your Amazon, your Meta, your CoreWeave, and your Oracle. All these companies are the ones that are investing heavily in AI infrastructure. And the first thing that you can see from this is starting kind of like in Q3, Q4 of 2023 is when investments started to grow pretty rapidly, right? You started to see this nice uptrend in capital expenditure. But something happened in the last two quarters, Q4 of 2024 and Q1 of 2025. There was kind of a slowdown in capital expenditure. There wasn't much growth on a sequential basis opposed to what we've seen so far. But now, if you look at this most recent quarter that we just had, it jumped dramatically. We can see around a quarter ago, it was closer to $80 billion. Now it is closer to $100 billion. And all these semiconductor companies and all the AI companies that have reported yet so far haven't really seen much growth in their data center revenue. I'm talking about you, AMD. So where is that money going to? In my opinion, a good portion of this growth in capital expenditure, obviously some go into the physical aspect of building the data centers and that infrastructure, but I do believe another good portion is going to go to Nvidia and their AI GPUs. So if there's any doubts that Nvidia is not going to beat earnings expectations and revenue expectations, I would say just look at this graph really quickly and those fears should be eliminated. And if you're worried about the AI market story ending, this graph should also contain those fears, as we're seeing big tech players are investing dramatically in AI solutions. Now, the other thing that we do have here is guidance from all these companies. All these companies, I am gonna give my best expectations, and the big four, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and Meta, I believe for calendar year of 2026, all those companies are going to spend nearly $100 billion each in capital expenditure. So looking at this graph, looking at the expectations that I have for next calendar year, I continue to see a massive growth story for Nvidia. Now, like I mentioned later throughout this episode, I'm going to give my price expectations and my overall bullish sentiment. What you were saying, my overall sentiment on Nvidia. And for those that are not familiar, my name's Jose Najarro. I do have a master's in electrical engineering. I've worked in some crazy companies before, but now I just focus on semiconductor and AI analysis. And this is going to be the best place you're going to find any news. So make sure to hit the thumbs up and the subscribe button, especially for companies like Nvidia, which we have been talking about for many, many years. Yes, many years from, you can see my videos going back from 2018. We've talked about Nvidia since then. Now, I obviously want to start off with expectations. And this is what you're going to see from all these other YouTubers out there, and nothing for them, right? All of them cover different segments. but no one covers the semiconductor space like I do. So here we can see for quarter two in revenue expectations, the company market is expecting somewhere around $46 billion. That would be about a 53% year over year growth. For quarter three, guidance, we're expecting around $52.5 billion. Now, all this is dependent on how NVIDIA guides. Does it guide with the China market included or with the China market not included? We saw AMD in their recent earnings saying that they're not going to be including the Chinese market in their guidance, but that was prior to Trump and the Trump administration giving a green light to things like the H20 and the MI308. Now, there are some analysts that are expecting as high as $57 billion if you include China in quarter three guidance. And I think that's what's going to be important, right? And also great to understand that there are some wide expectations and a lot of ifs and ands. What is the expectations without China, and what are some of the expectations if China is included? Now, this is kind of their data center market. And for those that are curious, all these charts are coming from fiscal.ai. Use my promotional code fiscal.ai/Jose for 15% off. This is the greatest platform for any form of data analysis like this. You're going to want it. I use it every single day. 15% off. The link is down below. Now, for the data center market, in the last quarter, we had around $39 billion here. Now, the data center market is expected to grow to roughly $40 to $42 billion, representing another around 50 plus year over year revenue growth. So we continue to see that strong demand for data centers. Now, if I was to say, I do believe we are going to get kind of closer to the top end here because of the type of money a lot of these data center companies spend this quarter alone. So it is crucial to remember that the China market is not included in this quarter revenue. So that creates some short-term headwinds. In the overall landscape, though, we can kind of see from this capital expenditure that it does seem from these numbers that Microsoft, Google, Meta, and Amazon and everybody else is putting is stepping forward and saying, look, my wallet is open if you're willing to sell more chips to me. Now, in forms of earnings per share, we do expect somewhere around $1 in earnings per share for this quarter, up 47% year over year. Quarter three guidance is about $1.19. So we continue to see a nice uptrend in their overall earnings per share. Now, free cash flow is also expected to be around $24 billion. That is wild. Now, looking at that and the annualized revenue, annualized run rate, that is nearly $100 billion in free cash flow. At the moment, there is no player, and we'll look at the chart. Actually, we'll look at it right now. At the moment, there is no player out there right now that is making $100 billion in free cash flow. The closest is Apple, and that's going to be something that right now, this quarter, the second biggest free cash flow machine in the Max 7 is going to be Nvidia. Last quarter, it was number 3 with Google being about $74 billion. But we can see as this company is investing a lot in AI infrastructure, it dropped down to 76. Nvidia, in my opinion, is going to be the second free cash flow machine. And by the end of this year, it will be the biggest, the largest free cash flow monster in the Max 7. It's going to generate, in my opinion, more free cash flow than Apple by the end of this year. Now, I've said that in previous episodes, but it continues to showcase if that free cash flow is coming in, look how much growth. A $25 billion run rate gives you a revenue annual run rate of about $100 billion. Now, all these look nice, and we continue to see a nice revenue estimates go up. Earnings per share estimates continue to grow on a sequential basis, and same with the free cash flow. Now, I want to take a closer look at some of the real questions we have as NVIDIA investors. The first one is, I kind of alluded talking about it last, which was the free cash flow. What is this company going to do with that massive free cash flow? Obviously, it's doing some buybacks. Obviously, it's paying a teeny tiny dividend, but overall, cash and cash equivalents is growing dramatically. $54 billion in cash last quarter. If you're seeing kind of that free cash flow continues to grow, I believe we're going to continue to see this total cash and cash equivalent grow and grow every quarter from now on. What is it going to do outside of just pure buybacks, which obviously are important, but is it going to start investing more in maybe some of its data center players? Is it going to start prompting up more data center solutions like CoreWeave, like Nebius and stuff like that to kind of eliminate its needs of Amazon, of Google and all that? What kind of acquisitions, what kind of investments are you going to make? And they I don't think they need to use it, but at least a game plan of how they plan to go from, at the end of the day, cash is not the best thing to own, right? What kind of investments are you doing with that cash to generate even more and more money for me as an investor? The second kind of question is what is happening in China, right? There's a lot of things changing around here. I've shared my thesis in the prior episode or two prior episodes, but we're getting in one hand that the China market is banning potentially the H20 due to certain remarks by the Trump administration. But then we're hearing other stories that, and Nvidia is also reportedly halting production of the H20. Then you're seeing other stories that Nvidia is getting ready for a new chip in China with the Blackwell architecture, the B30A, which again, we have discussed plenty of times during this channel. Now, I think I already gave my thesis, and my thesis is I do believe NVIDIA is halting the H20, but that's because it doesn't need more production from there as it decides to ramp up the B30 instead. That's where I think things are going. So there's some truth to it, but it's not necessarily as bearish as we think it is. Now, no matter how my thesis is, we want to get a confirmation from Jensen and his team during the earnings call. So that's what we need, a confirmation about China. Another thing is there are questions and rumors, and some of these rumors were already denied by Nvidia, where there are delays of the Rubin platform due to AMD competition. This time, while Nvidia has kind of denied these rumors already, I do believe there are going to be some follow-up questions to the Rubin delays, especially since we did see some delays with the Blackwell. I think companies and analysts are going to be, look, we saw something similar happen with the Blackwell architecture as you had some issues. What is really going on here with Rubin? Be honest with us. So I think we're going to get some questions here and maybe get some confirmation of what's happening with Rubin. Have there been any issues that could potentially create maybe a mini delay? So a final confirmation from management would be there. Next, the Blackwell ramp, right? The Blackwell is their current architecture. And in the last earnings, we saw that Blackwell was nearly 70% of data center revenue. Hopper was the remaining 30% or so. How is this shifting? Is there still a strong demand for Hopper? Are we completely eliminating the transition of it? Has there been any random demand that pick up for Hopper? Or is it purely Blackwell? And what is the overall, in theory, it should just be Blackwell growing dramatically and eventually becoming the 90 plus percentage of this compute. But are there any changes here that investors should know about? So a quick update on that. And we did recently see companies like CoreWeave, companies like Nebius talking about CoreWeave actually already has the first GB300 system up. We know Nebius has partnerships with the Blackwell Ultra. They are also standing up B200s and GB200 systems as well. So kind of an update on the Blackwell ramp solutions right now. The other thing is obviously margins, right? Margins, if you kind of look at these numbers, look like things are bad. But remember, on April 2025, it did include that China impact, which was a one-time expense. If it wasn't, margins would have been closer to 70%. Is any unchanges? Are we going to go back to that 70, 71, 72% margins? And what is guidance going to be there as we're getting now ready for the Blackwell Ultra ramp? Now, I mentioned, I think those are the main questions. If you had any other questions you had to ask Jensen that are really crucial for the stock, let me know in the comments below if I missed anything. But I think these are the top level. Obviously, we've heard a lot of cool tools. What's going on in the robotics space? We kind of have a video of unboxing of the robotics market happening on August 24th. We also have another interesting AI chip conference, Hot Chips, happening later this week. So there might be some small questions about that. The questions that I had are pretty much that would impact the top level space and kind of top level revenue and also earnings per share. Now, if we look at valuation, This company's forward PE ratio is sitting at around 35.87. The median is around 34.88. So right now, this actually makes me happy going into earnings. I don't think the stock is completely overvalued at these moments. It's fairly valued based on historical information that we see from the past 5 years. Now, for the stock to rally, it can't just be earnings. It can't just be revenue because, like I mentioned, I think, at least I hope, analysts are smart to have seen this. And I do believe a lot of analysts are expecting strong demand in earnings, strong demand in revenue. And we continue to see that typical, power constraint, the AI market continues to evolve. That's already known. That's something that is not going to rally the stock price, right? We already know all these players are going to be spending a lot of money on AI because we already know that they need more AI compute. What can you tell us that we don't know right now? And that's unfortunately the bad thing about Nvidia is, what don't we know? So Jensen needs to say something that is new to us. Is there some crazy revolutionary uptake happening in the robotic space much faster than you expected? In the healthcare market, in the cloud market, are you able to see margins increase a little bit? Did you find a supply chain partner that is able to make the speed up process a lot faster? Those are the things that are needed to really drive the price up. Now, earnings are a coin flip. If anybody's giving you an actual price target, they're just playing you as a fool. Please don't be played as a fool. I think overall, one can say long-term bullish, and this is a company that I believe will beat the market. That's with the strength that we're seeing in the AI space. That's my prediction. Now, if I'm looking for an actual price prediction, again, with the current valuations, unless we hear something scary, I think we will stay around the price points that we're at. So we're at 177. I would say after earnings, the day after earnings will be somewhere between the range of 175 and 187. I know a weird range, but that's the range I expect it to be at. No matter, as a long-term investor, I just care about what they present and what they tell us about the future. Is everything confirming with the research that we have provided throughout all these episodes on Nvidia? If so, be it whatever the stock does the next day, it's okay. The long-term thesis is still intact. And again, if there's one chart that should get you excited for the overall sentiment of earnings, is this: capital expenditure grew like crazy this quarter. Where is that money going? I think it's Nvidia. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Take care. If you want the best place to get Nvidia coverage after earnings, we're going to do a live show here on this channel. Make sure to stay tuned. We'll look at it after earnings. We'll look at the earnings call live as well and everything in between. Take care. Have a good day and see you all next time.